Hi, everyone. So for our next segment, what we're going to be doing is trying out kind of a new segment we're going to call like the field piece. It's inspired, like I said before, by Valentin's video that he put together from Switzerland. And so basically what we'll do is each take turns just putting together a segment about something that's interesting to us, something we want to share. This month it'll be me. And so what I have put together is basically just like a snapshot of what I think like a typical Korean neighborhood or Korean like daily life could look like. So just this past weekend, my wife and I rented some bikes and just went on a bike ride around the streams and did a walk around our neighborhood and just kind of showed what's there. And I think for me, this just really captures like one of the things I love about living in Korea, which is like it's such a crowded, dense city that there's stuff to do everywhere, and you really don't have to go very far to have some like really cool things to do in your neighborhood. So let's go ahead. So to start the video here, as I mentioned, we rented some bikes. And so what my wife's doing here is these are city bikes, and we're just basically renting them for the day. So you can do it through an app, and you just say like rent for how long, and then the shows you on the map where the bikes are, and you just walk over there, scan a QR code, and pick a bike up. And you don't actually have to do it on the app ahead of time. You can do it right at the bike, but we just decided to reserve them ahead of time. So yeah, that's what she's doing now, just entering the info. It's a little more complicated because there's an issue with like my foreign name not fitting in a character field, which is a common thing. So I have to do like a temporary account. So yeah. And as you can see in the background, our adorable cat. Our adorable cat there in the middle. This is just us walking to the bikes, but that's not as interesting as the cat playing. So this is just our neighborhood. We're walking over to get the bikes. This is like 2 minutes from our house. These are just some like public restrooms, really nice and clean. And then there's actually a different bike rental place in Nowon-gu in the spring and summer. You can get full-size bikes for Chanwon, $1 a day, but you have to drop them off back at the same office. So we didn't do those this time, but in the spring we probably will. There's a map of kind of the bike area. What we actually did was these bikes here. So these are all over the city. There are these signs and these bike stands and these white city bikes. The advantage here is, again, you can book them through the app, and then you can actually drop them off all over the city. So you can ride from point A to point B and not have to worry about dropping them off. So this is just kind of showing, she went on, my wife scanned the QR code, pops up saying your bike's rented, and then the little lock on the wheel unfastens. And then you get on the bike and away you go. And you can see each bike has like a little basket. And then there's these bike trails everywhere. So this is, again, right by our place. There's all these streams in Seoul. And so there's all these little streams, and all of them connect together. So you could actually ride on this stream all the way down to the Han River, which is the main river in Seoul, and like all over. This is another thing I love about Korea. So all over the place along these streams and whatnot, there's these workout stations that the city puts up. And like, it's amazing because they're always in pretty good condition. Like, people take care of them and then actually use them. And you can see we're just on the river biking. And one of the things, again, I love about Korea is there's always people out doing stuff. You have like old ladies sitting on the stream talking. You have kids playing. You can see in this video, if you look on the right, actually, there's an old man peeing. But you can see there's just so many people out and about. Like, this is just, we live in like some kind of outskirt neighborhood in Seoul, but it's still part of the main city. There's people everywhere. There's tons of people walking, biking, jogging. There's lots of older people using the exercise equipment. And if you see this little montage, there's another exercise spot there, people using it actively. It's really nice to see a lot of the people that use those are older. You get 40, 50, 60-year-old people that are using the exercise equipment to stay in shape. And yeah, this is, like I said, this is just 4 minutes, maybe, this, not even 3 minutes from our place is this stream with this trail. And you can see there's a walking trail and a biking trail. During the winter, it's pretty gray like this. Still pretty, but obviously not as beautiful. But in spring and summer, it's really green. There's leaves on the trees. Like, it's just a really nice, delightful little thing that the city maintains. And you can see here, we're going to turn to the right. This is another side stream. So all of the streams in the city connect with these roads. So you can really bike all over the city, which is pretty amazing. And the cool thing is that even though we're in Seoul, there's a ton of wildlife. So there's like herons and storks and ducks and fish all in these streams. You can see we saw some fish, and they're pretty large actually. And there's some storks and some ducks. This is not a wild animal, but there was a stray cat that was rolling around in the sand. And it's just cool because even though we're in the city, like we can go on a bike ride right by our house and see like some wildlife, which, you know, just in a lot of other cities around the world, you don't get that everywhere. Like you don't necessarily have like green spaces like this all throughout the city, which again, I really like. So this is the side stream here, and these little side streams have events. So this side stream every year has a lantern festival. So we went there this year, a few months ago. This stream has a bunch of lanterns in it and like little art installations and stuff, which is really cool. And you can see like along the stream, there's staircases that go down. There's like little amphitheaters, things like that. And so now we actually rode too far on the stream. So we're exiting here to get off. So at this point, we're only maybe 40 minutes away from our place. And now coming off of the stream, we just decided to bike along the road for a little bit. If you look, actually, Valentine, if you want to pause here, this is actually, or maybe a little farther, there's a sign in the way. I think this is interesting because this is a really typical, maybe like, here is perfect. This is like a really typical older Korean neighborhood in Seoul. You see those big buildings on the left and right. Those are just apartment blocks. And so you have like, the population density is really extreme, but again, that kind of works out okay because you just get a lot of like life everywhere. The streets are like busy. There's always people around. But it is like a very different feel. Like, did that shock you? For me, when I came, it was like seeing that number of people living in one area was really kind of shocking. How about for you?
It depends the area you go to also. Like it's pretty shocking sometimes in like a bigger, like the popular neighborhoods like Gangnam or Hongdae. It's like, it's insane. And when my parents came to Korea also, they were pretty shocked like how many people, like it's overwhelming sometimes to be.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah, but like I said, it's just, this is like I said, a pretty typical, just not Gangnam, not Hongdae, which are really popular Korean areas. This is out in Nowon-gu. It's just like a random part of Seoul. And I think it's a pretty typical looking Korean neighborhood. So if you want to press play again, I stopped right here. I did a freeze frame because this on the left here, this shopping center, it's such the typical like early 2000s old style Korean shopping center. You don't see a lot of these anymore in other parts of the city. It's just like super old school. And so this is just a quick montage of like, this is just a part of our area, like a few subway stops from our house. There's this park. The building on the left is actually an art gallery. Like it's one of the Seoul art galleries that they cycle exhibitions through. And you can see another city bike spot. So we could drop the bikes off there if we wanted to. And generally there was just a lot of people out. There was kids roller skating, kids playing badminton. So we just rode our bikes through. And what we were looking for here now is another part, one of my favorite parts of just a normal Korean neighborhood, which is food stands. So you have these like tents on the sidewalks in different places. That one is selling like hotteok, like a dessert pancake. And this one is a tteokbokki stand. And so what my wife's doing here, you lock it like that, and then it's a temporary lock. So we can pick the bike up again later. But you can see this is like a little stand, and I slowed it down here. What they sell is rice cake in a spicy sauce, fried squid, fried vegetables, corn dogs. And so what we ordered was tteokbokki with twigim, which is the fried food. And you can see they chop it up, put it in the sauce, and then scoop it all up. And this one is really good. And all the food we ordered here was 6,000 won. And then this is, that's fish cake. And they boil the fish cake in water and it makes a broth. And it was like -8 out. So this is like the best to get warm broth when it's super cold out. And my wife's putting soy sauce on a fish cake. There's me downing some of the tteokbokki. And again, all this food is only 6,000 won, which is like $5.50 US. So pause real quick here. This I just had to take a video of because it's so unique, at least for me, to Korea. There's a presidential election coming up. And so you get these little flatbed trucks that drive around with people on them with megaphones just yelling.
Yeah, and sometimes they're like animations, like they're dancing or whatnot. And it's like, The jokes.
It's so hokey because he's just going around like a preacher on a pulpit reading from this little thing with a video behind him, and they just drive around the neighborhood. It's just kind of bizarre, and it's really annoying in the morning when it's like 8:30 a.m. But yeah, so that guy drove by because the election's coming up. So anyway, after eating, just picked the same bikes up. And again, this is just like showing what a normal street looks like. You got different food stands. There's a bus. And so we were basically coming back toward our place now, and we decided to drop the bikes off and proceed on foot for the rest of the way, because what we have here, so this is just showing like we just found the nearest bike spot, lock the bikes when they're at this place. Maybe pause again. So we just lock the bikes there, and then that's it. So it's a really nice, convenient way. I know in the US they have like Lime bikes, which you can leave anywhere. I kind of like Seoul's approach a little better because the bikes in the US, people leave them everywhere and it's really messy. They just throw them on the sidewalk. These ones...
Well, there are some in Seoul also that you can leave everywhere.
For bikes also?
The electric ones.
Oh, that's true. So I like that the city has this system. They responded pretty well because people kind of complained at first because you had to actually find an open spot to lock them at before at those stations. And it was really inconvenient because sometimes there wouldn't be an open spot and then you can't drop it there. So then the government changed it. So now if it's just in proximity to that spot, it's counted as being returned, which is nice because it makes it a little more organized than just having people drop them on the sidewalk. So anyway, where we stopped now is it's a park that's actually, it's an old train track. It used to be a train that would run from Seoul to a city in the south. And they've turned the old train track into a walking path. And that's an old train car that's now actually a community library. It's closed right now because of COVID. But basically, there's this train track with a nice walking path on each side. And it goes pretty far, maybe like 5-6 kilometers of this train track. And so you can just like stroll down it. You can actually bike on that side on the right that has 2 lanes. And up in the trees on the right there, you can walk there also. And so my wife and I, probably like 2 or 3 times a week, we'll just go for a walk here, which is just really nice. So Valentine, I was curious, you live on the other side of Seoul. Do you have similar things in your area that you do? I know that on my side of the city we do.
Well, now that I moved to a little, like Daniel mentioned before, it depends the area you're living in, but they're like a little bit more like family-friendly areas and a little bit more quieter with more outdoor like parks and stuff like this. So now that where we live, we're really nearby like a little like mountain, like so the cool thing also in Seoul is that there are like a lot of entrances to those like trails. Like you can enter like those trails from everywhere, and you can like go for like 20, 30, 1 hour, and you'll exit from another point and maybe take a taxi back home or a bicycle. And so that's what we do sometimes.
Those little mountains are one of the coolest features about Seoul. Again, being such a big city, these tiny little, I almost call it like a hill from like America. It's not like a mountain maybe the way you'd think. It's like this perfect little hill right in the middle of the city. You can walk to it from your front door, and like you could spend probably 3 or 4 hours walking different trails like easily.
It's pretty unique also to see the view when you are on the top of the mountain. You see the city, and it's pretty unique. You are in the nature, but you see the contrast is really...
And there's so many of those around the city, which is cool to like give yourself the opportunity to be in nature while you're still in the city. And then they develop them pretty well. The trails usually have like...
Or it's like so well like maintained.
Really well maintained. There's usually exercise equipment on the mountains. Which is, and it's like, it's actually used. That's what I love, is that people use it. It's not like in the US, if they put those out, it would be broken and no one would use it.
Yeah, I used to go in the morning, like for a little hike, like, early in the morning to see the sunrise, and like some like older ajoshi or ajuma, like with older, like that's what we say for older people here. And they're like already exercising on those equipments. And
that's a whole nother topic, I think, is physical fitness in Korea. Like at my gym, there's like 65, 70-year-old, a guy who comes in with walking sticks. Still goes to the gym. But anyway, you can keep playing.
You can see on the video already. Here on the right side, there's a lady exercising. There's always, it's always used. Like
always.
There's always at least one person using those equipments at any time.
Definitely.
Anytime.
So you can see here, there's more of those. And so it's just like I said, it was like this one little area. It's not a huge green belt, but there's like these trees you can walk through. You can walk through the railroad track. There's a lot of variety for like the type of experience you can have. There's my wife. We split up here so I could film. So she's down there. But you can see like it's just there's different routes to walk the same area. So it's not just like a boring walk that's the same every time. You can walk in the trees, you can walk on the railroad
There's
track.
like mini central parks everywhere.
Exactly. So here's a perfect example. Just randomly, that lady's probably in her late 40s, just exercising in negative 7-degree weather. And it's just crazy. There's these little exercise things everywhere. And yeah, it's just this really cool. This railroad actually used to go through Hongdae, which is where we are now. And actually, this is cool. There's a community garden as well. So all along this trail, there are these plots, and in the spring, you can rent them out. So you can see this says like number 128. I think it's like 250 garden plots, and you just contact the city, and then you can sign up to rent one.
Cities in America would not work.
No, people would just like steal and vandalize. Pause right here. This is really interesting. So this trail we're on, same trail, it's pretty trendy now. So this part of Seoul has become in the last year or so, like people will come for a weekend date, like on Saturday, come with their boyfriend to walk the trail and go to the coffee shops. This colorful building here is actually public housing. So this is like low income apartments. The thing I really like about Seoul, this is an example of like where this building is located is like super desirable. Like they don't push low income housing out to like the worst part of the city. Like it's like, no, like let's make a really nice apartment building in a nice place and offer it to low income people. And I think that's just really nice that it's like anyone would love to live in that location, but it's like, no, this is for low income, which I like. I just hate when that's pushed out to the edges.
Are you saying it's wrong, that Parasite movie, where like there's this huge gap between like the rich neighborhoods and like...
No, there definitely is still that. What I just mean is that like in the US, public housing is always pushed to an undesirable neighborhood. And I think there is generally in Seoul, they try to develop it pretty equally. And they don't just, like, even this is a really, really popular area. It's like, we're going to put some low income housing here to integrate the different classes of it. Now, the super rich people still just live in their mansions in Gangnam.
And put some like colorful colors on the building to say, hey, here's the poor. Because usually like all buildings are gray. Why this one has so many colors?
It actually looks really nice. Like the actual apartment buildings next to it look really ugly compared to it. Like I like that they put a little bit of design work. They tried to make it look like a nice building. So anyway, this is just kind of walking back towards the main street. They have some benches all along. They have hand sanitizer now there during the pandemic. And all of that gray and brown is, that brown grass is green during the spring. And then they have like a digital screen with the weather, some announcements for the Nowon-gu, which is really nice. So this is like the main road that we walk to get to the trail. So this is like right in the middle of our neighborhood. And if you look down as we pan to the right, Alen's political
other election
banners everywhere. And then if you look to the right here, if we were to walk down that street about 10 minutes, then we'd be back at our apartment. So yeah, this is just like a little snapshot of our neighborhood and one of the activities we do. But again, it's just one of the reasons. Oh, and then the nice thing is like trails like this railroad trail is just packed all along with like little independent coffee shops like this. So at the end of our walk, we went here and had a coffee and a piece of cheesecake. And there's just lots of little cute independent cafes like this, little restaurants. So yeah, this is like one of my favorite parts about living in Seoul is like all of that was, 2.5 hours on Saturday and all bikeable and walkable. Like we were never more than probably a 5-minute cab ride from home at any point if we really needed to get home, which is really nice.
All right, then that's a nice, a longer field piece than I expected, but really good.
I was a little unsure how much to film. Hopefully that was all right.
You can become a vlogger.
I had help. My wife took some of those clips because she has a little more experience with it than I do. But yeah, it's I think that to me is maybe I'll do a similar piece in spring or summer once the same trail has gotten a lot prettier, because it wasn't looking its best in the middle of winter with no green. But yeah.
All right, let's go on a little break, and we'll go for our last segment of the show. And
sounds good.
Yeah,
See you soon.